Hey everybody, it's Roger Thorpe here. Hope everyone's doing well. I am joined today by Charles Fortier. We're going to have a really cool conversation here about emotional intelligence. And before we get into that, I've known you for a while, Charles, and I'm just kind of blown away about how this issue has, really grown as an important concept in all aspects of business growth and leadership. So I think it's very timely that we're having this. We've talked for a long time, but I'm really happy that we're able to do this and record it and share it with some people. So beyond the fact that you have been in the human capital business for a long time, and especially in emotional intelligence, what else would you want the audience to know about sort of why you know what you know?
Well, for me, Roger, when I think about emotional intelligence, like what comes to mind first is that I got interested in the topic first and foremost for myself many years ago when I was a leader, when I was looking at upping my leadership game and becoming a better leader overall. I definitely got interested in the topic, and I got the opportunity to see the impact that having a better understanding about your emotions and the emotions of others can bring you to a better style of leadership,
Mhm.
which and I agree with you with the concept that it's like very popular nowadays, because has been like a lot of things written about emotional intelligence throughout the pandemic, and it's been identified as one of the key levers of getting to more inclusive or dynamic leadership during the pandemic, but also post-pandemic in what people want to see in terms of leadership in our organizations.
Yeah. Okay. So we're on the same page. And we've seen some correlation here between what we teach around resilience and positive psychology. And our wellness director, Nicole Cairns, has done a lot of work on that. So I love how this crosses over into both places. So let's start with this question for you. Emotions has a interesting when you think about that word being emotional or where emotions fit into an organization, talk about how we should rethink that word in
Yeah,
that
I think
perspective.
that's interesting. It's a good place to start because I think that a lot of us have risen within our career and our organizations, thinking about, or at least getting some advice that emotions don't have a place in business, or that when we come to work, we should leave our emotions at the door. And I couldn't disagree more with that now. I think that we're at a stage now where we have to embrace and start realizing that emotions are actually an important part of the success of our organization. And when we think about wanting to influence and wanting to have some impact on the people that work for us, the people all around us, I think none of that can be done truly if we don't understand how we may feel and how those emotions can impact others. And also, we can't get to a great level of influence if we can't understand how people around us feel. Because when we
Mhm.
get that information, that can definitely gives us, direction and guide on how we can, take our people and bring them along a journey that we want them to take.
Okay. So how I think of it as a leader myself, as a business owner, how do you speak to this in terms of the power of the leadership role, right? Do I have to be always positive and always, on point and everything else? Maybe I need to rethink that as a leader myself. So how would you address it from that point of view?
Yeah, being great at emotional intelligence is not about being nice all the time. I would say like it's way more about being able to express our emotions constructively and in a way that can empower people around us. And in the the trainings, the workshops that we do, the one-on-one coaching that we do with leaders, when we talk to leaders about expressing their emotions and talking about emotions, of course we get like we get
Hmm.
usually like long periods of silence, right? Because again, we're not used to the topic in our work environment. But and the other thing that happens also when we think about emotions at work is that when we think emotions, we think about, either people crying or people that are super upset, right, banging on their desks. And the reality is those two things are the extremes of emotions that, of course, like, we don't want to get there. And between these extremes, like, exists like so many other emotions that we can display that can get us to where we want to go. So, of course, positive emotions can have like a great positive impact on our people. If we want our teams to feel hopeful, optimistic, excited about what's coming up in the organization, well, as a leader, you have to set the tone around that. You have to be able to constructively share those emotions with people so they get an opportunity to see that that's the way to go. And at the same time, sometimes unpleasant emotions can also have, positive impact on a team. If you think about something that's not going your way, or a project that maybe is not, rolling up to expectations, to be able to share concern in a constructive way can have like a definite like rallying impact on people. Because I think that ultimately our team members want to do good work. They want to know when they do good work, but also they do want to know when things are not going necessarily as expected, so they have a chance to go back and actually fix or correct what's not going right, so that we can get back like on track to what we want to do. And when we think about that, like, then we like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But in the, in the action of every day, and the stress that we have and the speed that our organizations are going, when we think about emotions, we're not thinking about those subtle ways that can be helpful. We only think about the doomsday scenarios that we try to get away from.
Okay, I like that. Nice way of looking at that. I also, just to add to that, for leadership people, it is a skill, right? Like, the reason you teach this is because it's a skill we don't necessarily have innately. I mean, I look at my kids and I'm proud of them, and I see some really good emotional intelligence from what I would describe as emotional intelligence. I think that's a great place to go, right? And keep building from. But myself, I need to keep learning, right? It's not at all of it is natural. Um, so then maybe a good final way to look at this is, as I'm growing my company and as our clients grow their businesses, organizations, as leaders, we have to make decisions. So
Yeah.
where does emotion or emotional intelligence fit in with making key strategic decisions?
Yeah, that's an important piece of where we focus with our clients on helping people understand like how their emotions actually impact either how they solve a problem or how they make that big final decision at the end of the day. And when we're in a leadership position, we often pride ourselves a lot that we can make that big decision without being impacted how we feel about it. But research have shown that even when we try to suppress emotions or we're trying to get them out of the way, there's always an imprint of emotion that stays with us. And trying to just brush the emotion away does not help you think about how that emotion may actually impact the way that you process information.
Okay.
So, rule of thumb in kind of the realm of emotions, when you're filled up with pleasant emotions, there's some good and there's some not that good that can come with it. There's some good because when you're trying to solve a problem, that uplift of pleasant emotions are actually going to help you be more creative, think outside of the box, maybe takes a little bit more risk than you would used to. But also, like, pleasant emotions can actually push you to think that the likelihood of success of your problem is going to be way higher than actually what it is in reality. And when you think about unpleasant emotions, well, you have a bit of the reverse, right? Think about if you're going into trying to solve a problem, if you're going through stress, anxiety about solving that problem, well, you may think way less outside of the box, right? Because you're so fearful of either making a mistake or not making the right decision that you're going to rely only on maybe past experiences or things that have worked in the past to solve your problem, which may work, but may not work also for the situation that you're in. And also, when we are filled up with unpleasant emotions, we'll tend to overestimate the likelihood of failure.
Okay. I see
Yeah,
the extremes.
yes,
Yeah.
and what's interesting is that, and what we forget is that regardless of what we're trying to solve, we can never know like 100% if something's going to work or not going to work, right? Like we have to trust and find our confidence through the pre-work that we've done, the research, our analysis, our pondering of different solutions to get us
Mhm.
to the right one at the end, and then find our confidence there to take the leap forward. But most of the time, or what we see is that leaders, and I'll include myself also, I guess that happens to everybody. Sometimes we're at the end of the line, we did all of the work, but that unpleasant emotion of fear that we have just blocks us to make like the final jump when we've actually done all the work, and what we've
Right.
established is actually has a pretty good chance of working, not guaranteed, but a
Mhm.
pretty good chance of working. And just taking a minute to be conscious that, okay, maybe I'm fearful right now, and it's only that fear that's blocking me to take the final step in delivering that.
Mhm.
That realization of that emotion can actually be, can be the saving grace of your whole project, right? Because it allows you just to move forward.
Yeah. No, I love it. In fact, I think I see the advancement that people can have with this skill is the ability to make better decisions, but in fact, many cases, just make a decision. Because if you're paralyzed with doubt in that way, um, so it builds on itself. I see this as a confidence thing, and I see how teams who work really well together complement each other to support how decisions get made. And so it's not always, the leadership's only decision to make. So
Yeah.
um, this is
And
great. I like. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, they often talk about, in the realms of emotional intelligence, we often talk about that self-awareness is the foundation of your emotional intelligence, and that's true in many situations in leadership, that if you can have a moment to realize how you're feeling in that specific moment, the ability and the advantage that it gives you is that it gives you the ability to show up differently or to do
Uh,
something different to get you out of that muck, so that you can get to a different result, or you can get to the result that you want to get to.
yeah.
So like that key foundation of just being aware of how I feel, let alone after
Mhm.
understanding like what are the implications of all of that, but just understanding that is a huge step forward. And that's
Yeah.
something that we don't do. Like we just don't do. I was a leader in organizations for 20 years, and stopping to think about how I feel, I would have benefited from that. But in honesty, like it is challenging. You have to have that top of mind because things go fast. You have people at your door, you have problems to solve, decisions to make, like it's a never ending loop. So building that awareness of taking a step back can be the first step of then expanding those skills and getting better at it.
Yeah. I can just see how uh, this is a skill. This is something that will take someone to that next level of leadership, next level of better decisions, better teams. And I encourage people to learn more about this topic and certainly seek you out as an expert in this area. So thank you so much, Charles. I've been wanting to do this conversation for our community for so long. So thank you for taking the time to chat. I know we've scratched the surface here, but hopefully it's created some more curiosity for people to want to learn more. So thanks again for your time.
Wow, thank you so much, Roger, for having me. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure to talk with you
Yeah.
anytime.
Okay. Thanks, Charles.
Bye.